Hello, welcome to Fast 5 at RSNA 2024, my favorite session. Your colleagues from around the world submitted their ideas covering a wide range of non-clinical topics to participate in this engaging and super fast-paced session. After our voting process, where all topics were considered, 5 speakers were chosen to present today. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to present on a topic of their choice that reflects this year's RSNA 2024 theme, Building Intelligent Connection. So let's begin. I am your moderator for Fast 5. My name is Dr. Angel Gomez Intron. I work at Austin Radiology Association and the University of Texas Dell Medical School in Austin, Texas. Dr. Tessa Cook is an associate professor of radiology at the Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. She's the vice chair of practice transformation in the Department of Radiology. During her residency, Dr. Cook developed Radiance, the second open source radiation exposure monitoring tool, which is used worldwide. She is the director of the Imaging Informatics Fellowship and the clinical director of the 3D and Advanced Imaging Laboratory. In 2020, she received the inaugural Dr. Roth Dayhoff Award for the Advancement of Women in Medical Imaging Informatics. Dr. Cook is pursuing innovative methods to enhance the delivery of longitudinal patient care in radiology and improve the radiologist's workflow. Please welcome Dr. Tessa Cook.
From the beginning of our careers, we're told we need mentors, but we're not always told how to find them. Sometimes we're assigned mentors, but we may not be sure what's expected of us or of them, or what to do when we aren't getting the mentorship we need. Mentors provide guidance and advice. They give you feedback, help you make connections, help you realize your potential. There's an element of tough love in mentorship. Sometimes your mentors tell you things you don't want to hear, but good mentors take the time to guide you through the rough patches. Mentors don't have to be within your organization. They could be across the country or across the world. Some mentors you'll work closely with, such as on specific goals or projects. Others you'll check in with less frequently to get advice and make sure you're on the right track. Good mentors don't have to be years ahead of us in their careers. We can learn a lot from our peers, and we should be humble enough to learn from our mentees. Unlike mentors, sponsors aren't necessarily people you work with every day. Often they're not within your organization at all, but they see you from a distance, and they use their reputation to promote you and open doors for you. You may learn who some of your sponsors are. I'm fortunate to know of some who have advocated for me in our profession. But you may not meet all the sponsors that impact your career. Know that they're out there, and remember that you too can be a sponsor for others. Whether in the clinic, academia, or industry, look for the rising stars and help them to fulfill their potential. You've heard of sports coaches. You've maybe even heard of life coaches. But what's an executive coach? Unlike my daughter's soccer coach, they don't tell you when to run up and when to drop back. They also don't suddenly appear in your office and tell you to do something differently. And they are definitely not your work therapist. Dr. Atul Gawande said it best in a 2011 New Yorker article. The concept of a coach is slippery, he wrote. Coaches are not teachers, but they teach. They're not your boss, but they can be bossy. Mainly, they observe, they judge, and they guide. I've been blessed with an amazing career so far. But lest you think it was all smooth sailing and a straight path from point A to point B, let me show you what it sometimes sounded like. Utter discouragement from pursuing my dreams. I felt small, insignificant, incompetent. What I needed was perspective and a way to handle these challenges to my confidence and professional self-worth, because they weren't suddenly going to stop coming. What I needed, it turns out, was a coach. Coaching helped me learn about myself, my leadership versatility, my willingness to adapt, my tolerance for uncertainty, and my ability to lead change. I learned the importance of boundaries, of making space to think and reflect, of self-care, which is not selfish. I learned how to grow my confidence, promote myself, and listen less to my inner critic and more to my inner fangirl. The literature supports the value of mentors, sponsors, and coaches in our professional lives. A program at MGH that paired early career and veteran radiologists for a year saw increased rates of funded grants and promotions. MD Anderson's Leaders Sponsorship Program improved professional confidence, increased promotions, and expanded career opportunities for participants. And physicians at the Mayo Clinic who participated in 6 sessions with a professional coach reported decreased emotional exhaustion, less burnout, improved quality of life, and increased resilience. It's rare that you get to publicly thank the people that have left an indelible mark on your career, especially while standing on the grand stage at the RSNA. So to my mentors, sponsors, and coaches, thank you. I could not have dreamed of this career that I have, and I'm endlessly grateful to all of you. Every one of us can be a mentor, a sponsor, and a coach. Booker T. Washington, a renowned American author and reformer, wrote, "If you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else." We all stood on the shoulders of those who came before us. Let's be the shoulders for those looking to follow. Thank you.
Abhinav Abisuri is a third-year medical student at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA and a researcher applying artificial intelligence for opportunistic screening. He completed his undergraduate degree at the University of Pennsylvania with a double major in computer science and biology, and then he received his Master's of Public Health at Columbia in New York. His current research focuses on how common AI algorithms can be used in screening for pathologies such as diabetes and vertebral compression fractures across imaging of multiple modalities. He also wrote a book, Practical AI for Healthcare Professionals, aimed at teaching physicians about AI and how to create their own algorithm from scratch. Please welcome Abisuri.
So this past year, I took some time off of medical school to do some research at the NIH under Dr. Ronald Summers. Our project idea was to take an abdominal CT scan and detect diabetes. My initial thought was, well, can't you just do an A1C? But then I saw a patient case that really changed my outlook on this project. So let's get into it. A 77-year-old female comes to the emergency room with a 1-week history of left-sided flank pain. A preliminary urinalysis shows blood in the urine. The ED provider orders a CT scan, which the radiologist interprets as showing a stone in the left ureter. The patient is then sent home with pain medications and passes the stone the next day. But our story doesn't end there. A few years later, the patient develops diabetes. A year after that, she gets an L1 vertebral compression fracture. A few years after that, she gets a heart attack, develops heart failure, and subsequently dies. Now the question is, was there anything on her original imaging that could have clued us in to all of this happening? Well, if we were to take a look at her abdominal aorta and quantify the amount of calcification she has with an Agatston score, we would see that her Agatston score puts her at the 99th percentile for patients her age. That puts her at high risk for cardiovascular disease. If we were to take a look at her L1 vertebral body and measure the attenuation, it's actually below 100, which correlates with a diagnosis of osteoporosis. And if we were to do what my project did over the past year and look at a combination of her visceral fat percentage, muscle volume and attenuation, deep learning features derived from her pancreas and liver, we would see that she's at high risk of developing diabetes in the next 4 years. And shameless self-plug, if you'd like to hear more about the results, you can come to my oral presentation tomorrow. But if we as radiologists had all these tools available to us, we could potentially transform her timeline from looking something like this to looking something more like this. we could get that A1C that I was talking about earlier, in addition to a bunch of other diagnostic testing. We could have started her on medication, lifestyle management, and gotten her a few more years of life with the people that she loves. That is what the power of opportunistic screening is. But first, let's dive into a formal definition. Opportunistic screening is the process of screening for findings, typically on imaging, that were outside of the original indication for the scan itself. Now, as radiologists, you guys do opportunistic screening all the time. But there's only so much that a human eye can see in a limited amount of time. But with AI, we have the opportunity to make opportunistic screening more comprehensive, efficient, and reliable. There are a number of publications in this space for the diseases I talked about earlier, but also screening for diseases such as fatty liver disease, coronary artery disease, and predicting things like future fracture risk. In fact, opportunistic screening algorithms are really good at predicting future outcomes. Take, for example, this study. An opportunistic screening algorithm was able to predict 10-year mortality using only imaging findings much better than the clinical risk score calculator, which didn't use imaging findings. From a healthcare systems perspective, opportunistic screening and treatment based on those findings was much more cost-effective for diseases such as cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, and sarcopenia, ultimately saving both patients and healthcare systems money in the long term. But for each of these individual findings that are generated by these screening algorithms, someone has to go through and interpret it, leading to more burden on a potentially already burdened workforce. But we can take a cue from the automotive industry. Just as we get a 30-point vehicle inspection checklist saying that our brakes are worn out and need immediate attention, we have a little section appended to the end of our report that says that your aortic calcification is sky high and needs immediate diagnostic testing. Now that I've told you all about opportunistic screening and sold you on it, I want to see how we can actually push for its integration into practice. In order to do that, I think that we need to actually shift our priorities a little bit. Right now, a lot of AI research efforts are focused around trying to optimize the detection of a pneumothorax or pneumonia or segment abdominal organs every bit so more perfectly. And I think that's great. But we can do much more with the imaging and patient data that we have at hand. Going back to our 77-year-old, I think we can be part of the future where it's possible to predict outcomes 5 years from now just as well as we're able to see the kidney stone in her right now. We have an opportunity to push for opportunistic screening. It's up to us whether or not to make that opportunity a reality. Thank you.
Dr. Niraj Pandey is a cardiovascular and interventional radiologist at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi, India, and he serves as deputy editor of the Radiology Advances. His clinical practice encompasses CT and MR imaging of the cardiovascular system and peripheral vascular interventions. With more than 250 PubMed index papers, Dr. Pandey built his experience in imaging in congenital heart disease, specializing in the utilization of virtual dissection techniques in clarifying the anatomy of the malformed heart. Please welcome Dr. Niraj Pandey.
Most of you all would be able to identify these pictures. The ones on your right are from the dystopian sci-fi movie I, Robot, which was incidentally set in this very city of Chicago in the year of 2035. The ones on your left are from the Tesla's V Robot event, which was held earlier this year. Noticing the uncanny similarity between these pictures, I can't help but marvel at the speed at which AI has developed over the past decade or so. Definitely faster than what the makers of iRobot had anticipated. Parallel to other facets of life, the application of AI has expanded swiftly in the medical field. Radiology has proved to be a fertile ground for the application of AI because of its focus on technology and its fundamental dependence on sophisticated pattern recognition. Proponents of AI frequently say that someday AI will completely replace the human radiologist. I, for one, want to agree with them. However, The application or integration of AI into radiology has been slower than anticipated, but with the developments in deep learning, machine learning, and neural networks, we expect that the technological issues would be surmounted. However, beyond the technological considerations, there are significant legal obstacles which, if not resolved, will prevent the optimal use of radiology in AI. The point is, mistakes are inevitable. Even a highly accurate AI algorithm will have a small but non-zero probability of making a mistake. Even a perfect AI algorithm will eventually make a mistake because of physiological data drift. The point is, somewhere down the line, a mistake is bound to happen, which will result in serious injury to the patient, and this patient will then seek compensation through civil court proceedings. Now, in the existing legal setup, there are 3 laws which may be used to deal with such claims depending on the way AI was used. If the AI was simply used as a second set of eyes, like a computer-aided detection software, highlighting the findings which the radiologist then accepts or rejects before finalizing the report, the legal implications are straightforward. The radiologist is responsible for the mistake and existing medical malpractice laws would apply. In some special scenarios like off hours or high volume settings, the AI software may occasionally be used to prepare independent reports under the periodic supervision of a trained radiologist. In this case, vicarious liability would apply, and the supervising radiologist will be held responsible for the mistakes done by the AI, irrespective of their own direct involvement. For mistakes caused by AI permanently embedded within the imaging systems, product liabilities law can be used and the AI developers or vendors can be held responsible. But again, if the radiologist had an opportunity to review the report before it was released to the patient, the radiologist, being the learned intermediary, would be held responsible. But none of these 3 laws can be used for a totally autonomous AI radiology software. I'll show how. For a medical malpractice law to be used, it is essential to establish a legal duty of care of the physician towards the patient or establishing a patient-physician relationship. It is complicated here because the physician is an algorithm and not a human doctor. Also, it will be complicated to establish the reasonably standard or the reasonably prudent standard to which the algorithm is to be held to. Another problem would be presenting an expert witness in the court, because the AI algorithm is expected to perform tasks beyond that which is possible for a human radiologist. Another thing, that since it's an autonomous AI radiology software, there is no supervising radiologist, hence vicarious liability cannot be used. The courts seldom use product liability laws for standalone softwares. Also, an autonomous AI radiology software will be expected to evolve over time. Now, mistakes caused by a software which has evolved at a facility beyond the control of a developer, outside their supervision, holding the developers or vendors responsible for that would also not be practical. So from this you can see that AI related law is in its infancy, the legal status of AI is ambiguous, and the complexities are expected to escalate with increasing autonomy of AI. Instead of waiting for the courts to intervene, we should take it upon ourselves to pursue legal reforms related to the use of autonomous AI in radiology. This will ensure that the promise of AI in radiology is not stifled in its nascent stages just because of legal complexities. The true unbridled potential of AI in radiology can only be realized once we find an optimal legal way of fixing responsibility when AI fails. Thank you.
Dr. Lauren Groner is a cardiothoracic radiologist and health services researcher at Weill Cornell Medicine in New York City. Dr. Groner's research is focused on increasing early detection of lung cancer and cardiovascular disease among high-risk populations in clinical and community settings and identifying and addressing drivers of cardiopulmonary health disparities. Please welcome Dr. Lauren Groner.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. Thanks to all of you for being here. There's an African proverb that says, "Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter." This proverb conveys that whoever holds the power frames the dominant narrative. The power we hold as healthcare providers allows us to inscribe dominant narratives about patients, which perpetuate assumptions that can create barriers to healthcare services, such as smoking and lung cancer-related stigmas that create barriers to screening. Accordingly, while emerging technologies such as AI continue to advance rapidly in our field, persistent healthcare and technology barriers prevent the communities we serve from realizing the full benefits that radiology services can provide. This is especially true for disadvantaged populations who suffer from disproportionately high rates of preventable and advanced diseases, as described by Arissa Milton and colleagues in their 2023 radiographics paper about leveraging community-based participatory research, or CBPR, to advance health equity in radiology. In this paper, the authors describe why CBPR is important, its potential applications in radiology, and make a call to action for radiologists to engage in this work. I echo their sentiments in my work as a cardiothoracic radiologist and health services researcher, and believe that as experts in established and emerging imaging technologies, we are all poised to engage community members and center their voices to improve their health and do so equitably. It's important to understand that community engagement in research is a continuum with varying degrees of participation by community members. CBPR, for example, is considered the holy grail at the farthest end of investigator-initiated work. But no matter where on the spectrum your work falls, it all begins with community engagement, which is an ongoing long-term process by which institutions work with groups who share interests, situations, or geography to address relevant health-related issues. Community engagement is an effective approach to supporting sustainable environmental and behavioral changes that can lead to improved community health outcomes. Unfortunately, despite its proven effectiveness, community engagement remains underutilized in radiology. Fortunately, it is never too late to begin engaging community members as partners to maximize the effectiveness of efforts aimed at improving awareness and uptake of imaging-based services. For example, one of my ongoing funded projects is focused on improving lung cancer and cardiovascular disease screening in New York City through community engagement by identifying factors influencing low-dose CT uptake among those who are eligible to inform a multi-level strategy that will be implemented in various community settings. On the screen, you'll see our framework for forming and leveraging meaningful community partnerships. Our approach is guided by the National Academy of Medicine's core engagement principles and centered around establishing a community engagement advisory board to support our goals of trust building, increasing research study participation, augmenting knowledge and capacity building, and disseminating and translating our research into practice. Our team is focusing at least the first quarter of the fiscal year on trust and relationship building with community-based organizations. We'll then invite organization representatives, patients, patient advocates, community members and advocates, and faculty and research staff to serve as paid partners in all aspects of this study and future studies. And this includes recruitment of individuals who meet criteria for lung cancer screening, from whom we can elicit their knowledge and attitudes about lung cancer, cardiovascular disease, low-dose CT, their screening behaviors, and their preferences regarding receipt and dissemination of health information. All of this information-rich data will then be used to inform the design of our multi-level strategy. Of course, I recognize that community engagement is not without its challenges. Trust, relationship, and capacity building take time, money, training, communication, and coordination. Our priorities and expectations may be in competition with those of community members or our institution. Evaluating meaningful community engagement can be challenging. But these barriers can be overcome by partnering with health services researchers, your Cancer Center's Office of Community Outreach and Engagement, or COE, local government officials, and community leaders and members. Ultimately, by partnering with, empowering, and resourcing the communities we serve, we have the potential to catalyze a sustained system transformation that can lead to improved long-term health outcomes. As radiologists, we sit at the intersection of screening, diagnosis, treatment, and innovation, and are thus uniquely positioned to be spearheading efforts as community collaborators. As we look to the future, I urge you to collaborate. Collaborate with population health science, primary care, COE colleagues, and mentor the next generation of radiologists to instill the value of community engagement so our pipeline reflects our commitment to building intentional and intelligent connections with the communities we serve. This is how we can advance health and health equity at the same rate as technology, and how we can help our communities begin controlling their own narratives. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, Dr. Robin Roth is a board-certified radiologist specializing in breast and abdominal imaging, and also the Women's Imaging Fellowship Director at Cooper University Hospital. Over 30,000 people on the internet know her, including myself, as the Booby Docs, for her popular social media platform where she discusses breast cancer in an educational and fun way. Dr. Roth is passionate about using social media to educate, advocate, and find passion outside of the reading room. She is a frequent media contributor and served as the women's health correspondent for Good Day Philadelphia, and she hosts the podcast The Girlfriend's Guide to Breast Cancer to help those navigating breast cancer diagnosis. Please welcome Dr. Robin Roth.
Thank you. Oops, sorry. See this awkward selfie I posted in front of my radiology workstation during Breast Cancer Awareness Month 2018? Well, over the last 5 years, I've turned this awkward selfie into a popular social media platform, my own podcasts, speaking engagements, multiple TV appearances and publications, and the most exciting and unpredictable chapter in my career, and I'm gonna teach you how you can do the same. Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Roth. I'm an associate professor of radiology specializing in breast imaging, but over 30,000 people on the internet know me as the Booby Docs. It's not what you think. The Booby Docs is my popular social media platform where I talk about breast cancer and breast health in an educational and fun way. At the click of a button, I am able to educate and empower millions of people from around the globe about important breast cancer information, demystify breast imaging and biopsies, and combat misinformation head-on. Think of the impact this could have in a global health perspective. The power of social media is even demonstrated by the fact that I'm up here today as my loyal following of booby groupies rallied behind me. Thanks, guys. But my social media success did not happen overnight, and yours won't either. Let me take you back a little bit. It's 2018. I'm about 5 years after graduation from residency and fellowship. I land my dream job. I marry my dream husband, who's also a radiologist. We buy our dream house, and I'm starting to build a family we always dreamed about. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And I think this is something that happens when you're kind of early in your career and you finally hit that goal that you've been striving for, and you realize it's not enough. Something was missing, and I had been talking to my therapist for years about wanting to start a blog. I'm sorry. When I was younger, okay, I got it. I'm back. Okay. You see, something was missing. When I was young, I used to love creative writing. Oh, right, okay, I'm good. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, something was missing. I missed who I was before I became a radiologist, before I became a mom, before I even went to med school. I missed little Robin. You see, when I was young, I loved creative writing. I'd spend hours getting lost in my imagination and writing silly little stories and poems. Somewhere along the way, I lost my spark. I've been talking to my therapist for years about wanting to start a blog. Remember those? But I was really struggling to find my voice. Was I a doctor? Was I a mom? I was having an existential crisis. I mean, during my 9 to 5, I was diagnosing women with breast cancer every single day. And during my 5 to 9, I was a struggling mother of 3 young kids, barely hanging on by a thread. There I was, breastfeeding my 3rd son late one night during the COVID pandemic when I had my aha moment. I am literally surrounded by boobies all day and all night. I am actually a booby doc. And I changed my Instagram handle to the Booby Docs, and I changed my voice, and that simple change changed everything. Now I was no longer an out-of-touch radiologist showing cases most people didn't care about and using words most people didn't understand. Instead, I was your breastie who was also a breast radiologist. I broke down the 4th wall and let in breast cancer patients, high-risk individuals, anyone with breasts. I used silly little TikTok trends to make a scary topic much less scary. Did you know that about 50% of people under the age of 50 use social media for health information, with nearly 1/3 citing TikTok as their main source of health information? There is an abundance of misinformation online, particularly related to radiation safety, and something tells me it's only going to get worse. Misinformation on social media spiked during the COVID pandemic, causing people to decline vaccines, reject public health measures, and propagate conspiracy theories. It got so bad that Dr. Vivek Murthy, Surgeon General of the United States, issued a warning. Health misinformation is a serious public threat. It causes confusion, sows mistrust, and harms public health. He encouraged healthcare professionals to get online and proactively engage with the public on misinformation. Aside from combating misinformation, there are lots of other good reasons to get online. You could share your knowledge with a larger global audience, use it for recruitment or to find mentorship. It's also a creative outlet. But social media is not for the faint of heart. Not everyone will agree with what you're doing on social media, and they won't be afraid to let you know it. All right, so you think you might want to get online. Here are my 5 tips you want to consider before jumping online. Number 1, who are you? Not just doctor, first name, last name, radiologist. What are your passions and purpose? Incorporate those into your platform to make it appealing to a wider audience. Number 2, who is your audience? Is it healthcare professionals, general public? Number 3, what is your message? What do you stand for? Number 4, what are your platforms? My pronouns are Tick and Talk, but also Instagram. If you're less comfortable in front of the camera, then maybe X is for you. And number 5, be authentic, be professional, and have fun. I hope this talk has encouraged you to get online. And when you do, please follow me at the Booby Docs for more of the breast information. Thank you.
Well, that was fun. And fast. I told you it was going to be fast. So thank you all for joining us for the RSNA 2024 Fast 5. We really hope you are inspired by the many ways today's speakers are building intelligent connections. And please do not stand and stay for the always super fun imaging interpretation session that is coming right now. Thank you so much.